Welcome to Young Farmer. I am Tashlin Lowe, where we sit down with young farmers who are taking the farming industry by storm. Today, we have a very special show where we are sitting down with key industry players to address some of the challenges that our young emerging farmers face on a daily basis. We hope in this panel discussion that we can find solutions and clarify solutions together with our panelists. Our goal for this episode is to assist young farmers in scaling their businesses, fostering meaningful relationships, and mitigating some of the risks they may encounter on their farming journeys. Our panelists today include Janine Ryan from Farmers Weekly. We have Armand Jacobs from Agnovite, and our young farmer Hlobisile Yende. I will now be giving our panelists the opportunity to introduce themselves. Janine, we will be starting off with you from Farmers Weekly.
Thank you, Tashin. Thank you for having me. My name is Janine Ryan. I am the editor of Farmers Weekly, as you've just said. Farmers Weekly is South Africa's oldest magazine. We celebrated our 113th year anniversary this year. So we've been around for well over a century at this point. And we're also South Africa's leading English agricultural magazine. So we obviously cover a very sort of niche area, which is the farming industry. But I think it's something that we've been doing extraordinarily well for the past 113 years.
Wow, absolutely admirable, I must say. Now over to you, Armand. Please introduce yourself to us.
Tashlin, thank you. I'm Armand Jacobs. Thanks for having us here. I'm head of sales from Actionists side. We are a data-driven company that specializes in crop insurance. We strive to create sustainable farming within our agricultural sector in South Africa, and we are there to support young farmers as well. So we're very, very privileged to be part of this board panel today and to be able to discuss all these challenges our farmers face and the opportunity we have to address these challenges and then hopefully bring sustainability and profitability to the table.
Absolutely, and that makes me so excited because we also have a young farmer who's part of the of our panelists, Hlobisile Yende. So please give us a short introduction of who you are.
Thank you for having me. My name is Hlobisile Yende and I'm a third generational farmer. I specialize with livestock, which is our cows, goats and sheep, our grains, which is yellow maize as well as soya beans, and crops being butternuts. And I'm also an agricultural literacy author. Recently published my children's book that teaches kids about farming. We also, so basically our aim of the business is we want to sell convenience. We don't just sell, but we slaughter. And so that it's straight to your fridge or to your pot. And basically, we just sell the convenience, the health, and we educate and train because we also have a student program.
Beautiful, beautiful. I just love the panelists that we're having here today because we're going to have a great conversation based on the introduction. So we're going to jump right into the questions, starting off with you, Janine. So you are in this industry and you've done a lot of work for Farmers Weekly. So what are the most common mistakes you have seen that young farmers make in this industry as emerging farmers?
So I'll preface my answer by saying that this obviously doesn't apply to all new farmers, and it's not all new farmers make the same mistakes. Nobody should get offended by anything I'm about to say. But I would say that the most common mistakes I've seen is firstly that new farmers don't necessarily educate themselves very well on the commodity that they want to be farming. They don't do enough market research. They don't actually know if there is a market for whatever it is that they're planning on farming, what that market is, what that market might demand. I also think that farmers or new farmers have this idea that farming is a get-rich-quick scheme, which is absolutely not the truth, and anyone who has that idea should dispel it from their minds immediately. And I also think that there isn't enough support for farmers, so that's not necessarily a mistake that farmers are making themselves, but a mistake that governments are making, maybe even our commercial farmers are making, is that there is not enough support for new farmers going forward, to
Absolutely.
teach them actually what to do and how to do it.
Absolutely. And you raised a very good point where you said it's very important for them to know if what market they are joining, if how they can capitalize in the different type of crops, for say, because I think most young farmers are struggling with that, and the different seasons from the different interviews that we've been having, that most farmers do struggle with. So it's very beautiful to hear from that. And then Armand, in the insurance side of things, that leads into the mistakes that the young farmers do make. What are some of the mistakes that you have seen from these emerging young farmers?
Yes, Tashlin, I think if we look at young farmers, we're addressing young farmers today, but I think if we look at commercial farmers and young farmers as a whole, there's a few, I wouldn't say pitfalls, but there's a few mistakes, I would reckon, in terms of the input cost. If we only look at insurance as a whole, I think me and Mrs. Hlobie had a chat just prior to our podcast. Insurance is expensive, let's be honest, because there's a lot of risk involved, and there's a big amount of money that needs to pay out when things go south, especially with row cropping. So I think affordability at the end of it all is something you can stare yourself blind into, and where it all starts actually at the financial aspect, where how does my inputs fit into my whole farming program,
Absolutely.
and especially what can I afford as a farmer. So I think that's the challenges, especially young farmers and commercial farmers also face at this stage in time. And sometimes if you do the input cost, like we always say, include the insurance cost within your input cost. It's quite important, because we never know when things can go south. As I've mentioned previously, a year as we had this year, with the droughts, all of a sudden, so everything turns south. So I think incorporating your insurance cost within your input cost is quite important.
Absolutely.
And sometimes you can miss that.
That is so true, especially for young farmers. I think research is so important. And then when we go back to you, Hlobisile, were some of these mistakes made in your process? Give us some feedback. Did you experience some of these challenges because maybe you missed a few researching points here or there? Did you experience these?
Yes, I did, and we've paid a lot of school fees, but we invested in research and mentorship. They go hand in hand. If you pair yourself with a mentor that aligns with your goals and your dreams, then things will go better. I always say, when you pick your mentor, be as picky as when you're looking for a bull, because there's certain traits that you want to get to that goal. So research is very important. And also financial management, we do not have that, and we don't know that actually if you invest in getting an agricultural accountant, it will help you with the compliance and will help you make realistic business plans and proposals, because sometimes you lose funding because you're getting a normal accountant, but actually the projections and stuff are far-fetched, and they could have just done something straightforward, and someone who's in the industry and in the field knows how to put it.
Absolutely.
And I think as Mr. Armand mentioned, risk management, we also don't look at that. We look at risk management when the time when it happens, but we don't think of insurance, but it's so important, but yet very expensive. Like I think insurance usually works, and I stand to be corrected. I think it's usually afforded by the commercial farmers. What about the emerging and those that are still starting off? You want to put in these risk management processes, but you can't afford it. So how can we create a model that actually also accommodates these farmers so that we are actually protecting our businesses and we are farming better than the generations before? Because I'm a third generation farmer, so I had to fix the mistakes, and I'm trying to introduce a risk management, but it's costly. So how do I get met halfway by these insurance places, and so that at least I can farm better and mitigate these things?
Absolutely. And you did speak about the high cost that these things come out to. So in terms of your experiences, how did you deal and manage with the loss in any factor of these?
Actually, I experienced my loss this year. With our maize, we did not insure it. So with the dry season, we plant on dry land, so we lost close to about 100 hectares of maize. So imagine, and grains are very expensive also. So you can imagine, had we maybe had insurance, we would have been compensated a bit. But it's these things also, it's the lack of also and having the enough information. We just know that it's expensive, but we don't know what we could also be covered for. And I think that's when we can actually dig deeper, that now that I also bought like a stud bull, I want to insure it. But we don't actually read also the fine print that, okay, you just say, okay, I want insurance, but you don't know that some insurers don't even insure stock theft. But it's a big thing. Now you've signed it, you go and report and you want to go claim, but it's not covered. So how do you protect yourself as a farmer, and how I wish also insurers would be more transparent with us, and it would help us a lot, because then we would have the lease back and forth.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this question can go both for Admond and Janine, but I'll start off with Janine, because we know about these mistakes that the young farmers make. What does Weekly Farmer do to help educate the young farmers on these mistakes, you know?
So we basically stick to our mandate, which is to serve agriculture, and that encompasses education, really. So since I've become editor, we've tried to dedicate a lot more space in the magazine and even online to educating new farmers or aspiring farmers. So for example, we would profile successful young farmers to basically show other farmers or aspiring farmers what these farmers have done correctly. We also try to educate through providing articles that are sort of what we call back to basic articles, but it deals with the fundamental farming principles of how to do a budget, for example.
Yes.
How to hire staff, what kind of staff should you be hiring, or even really, really fundamental, as in, how do you plant an avocado tree?
Absolutely.
That sort of thing.
The basics.
Yeah, the absolute basics. And then we also partner, or have partnered this year, with a whole lot of event organizations, and specifically the Agri5 Expos, which is aimed specifically at new farmers. And it offers them demonstrations from various players in the industry on how to do certain things. So again, it's sort of getting back to basics.
Beautiful. I absolutely love that, because young farmers need that. Like we said, without research, they can fail dismally, And then back to Armand, you did say also that Agnovite deals with the challenges people face with climate change. And I think that's a big discussion. We spoke about the droughts that we have been experiencing, and that can cause a loss in these young farmers, industry and stuff like that. So what plans do you guys put together, or how would you advise, so that they can mitigate away from these challenges faced by drought or climate change, that type of a thing?
Yes, thanks, Tashlin. So currently we have a product called soil moisture insurance, and we have access to a range of satellites that's orbiting Earth. And so we have a broad range of data that we actually can monitor and have a historical view of that data. And I think that puts the farmer in a quite nice position to actually see how was my soil moisture insurance performing in a 2015-2016 drought, and to see what should I insure for my actual loss at the end of it all. Because each profile of a farmer actually differs in sense of my risk appetite. So some farmers might have higher inputs than others, and our product was actually designed to accommodate these different scenarios and different appetites for risk. So we implemented the factor which we call the variable tariff rate on our products, which will be a range from, I would reckon, 3 till up until 10, 13, and that actually makes the cost effectiveness of the product a little bit more customizable to the farmer's need. So cost effectiveness in that sense, I think that's why we implemented that different tariff rates and the performance of the product. But just to come back to your question, sorry, I'm drifting off a bit. If we go look at satellite data, we can do historical analysis and need analysis, and I think that's very important within the farming structure. What am I going to need as a farmer when the pawpaw hits the fan, if I'm using that term correctly? So with our soil moisture, we can actually go and see historically how did the soil moisture perform within a certain area or a spatial area where your farm would be situated at, and then accordingly to that, the variance, I would say, from the long-term average, we can compile a customizable product for the needs of the farmer. So that product specifically focused mainly on row cropping and dry light crop production at this stage in time. But because we have all these data, or we have access to all this type of data, I think in the near future we'll be producing quite nice products for the farmers to mitigate these risk scenarios and to create sustainability at the end of it all.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. And I think young farmers desperately do need that, especially in this unpredictable climate changing times that we are living in, you know. So, Hlobisile, just to get back to you, based on what Armand was telling us, what packages do you think would work best for you, based on knowing the challenges you face with the climate change and the drought and that type of a thing? What packages would work best for you?
So, listening to Mr. Armand, it sounds like a very amazing package and something that would also help, because also it helps with your farm management. Even when you go in a pitch your business, they just show that you take your business that serious, you know, and it helps you to plan ahead. And also it could potentially help with the profitability to see where your mistakes are. But also you look at, it sounds so great, but now you're already afraid to hear how much it costs, you know, and you're now wondering what sets them apart from the other insurers, because, you know, you look at all these insurers and then you're just like, I wonder, you know. And also, I think, I wanted to also get clarity if, do you have a package that accommodates the young farmers, you know, the new entry farmers, you know, because we want to take these things, we want to implement these things, but do you have a package? We're not saying that you must now decrease your standards or you have your certain market, but do you accommodate young farmers? Because we want to have these things and we want to do things better. How do you help us? And especially with farming, it's more of a seasonal thing. How does your costs work? You know, is it a thing that you want at harvest seasons, or you expect it like normal insurers that you want it every month? How does it work, and how do you best support us, you know? So I think that type of information can help us a lot. Or maybe we would assume that you are also as expensive as other insurers, but maybe you actually offer a better price, but yet we are not well equipped or informed about it.
Yes, thanks, Ms. Sloppy. So what we try to do with the tariff rates, as I've mentioned earlier, and that's to create cost effectiveness at the end of it all. Because our traditional products within the market has a fixed cost or fixed tariff rate, and that's mainly based on the historical risks and the historical payouts they do on these type of products. What set us apart a little bit, I think, in comparison to other guys, is that historical data. We can build a product based on historical performance and based on historical needs and analysis we do. So I think that helps us a little bit in the sense of effective pricing, if I can put it that way. And then, of course, to have a derivative in terms of a tariff rate. So especially if we go to a young upcoming farmer, as I've mentioned earlier, the needs analysis difference from, say, for instance, a guy that's living in Mpumalanga and doing maize and have a very high input cost because of the terrain or the area he's living in, or farming in, for that matter. So if we go to, say, for instance, an upcoming farmer setup, we sit with the product, and usually these type of financial products go through a broker. They do the needs analysis, but we support them in that process to do historical data analysis to see what would the maximum payouts be, what would the claims be within a drought period of time, and then especially what period of within your growth cycle of your crop specifically the most risk is involved. So if I can break it down a little bit back to the product side, I think two main risk areas where a farmer that's doing row cropping would stand out, and that would mainly be your planting period. Because, you know, if you can put the seed in the soil, that's one challenge, and then thereafter is actually the emerging process. So if we don't have enough soil moisture to accommodate that emerging process, then you're back to square one, and you need to get seed and the tractors started up. So especially I think we're looking in depth on the planting season to cover the farmers to have sufficient soil moisture within that period of the growth cycle. I'm backtracking a little bit within the actual planting window to just give you guys a little bit info or insight, if I can put it that way, on how the product is structured to mitigate these type of risks. So I think planting is probably the starting point of it all, is where we have risk, and we cover that period of time throughout monitoring the soil moisture according to the long-term average. And as soon as you have a deviance from the long-term average, these products activate, and then the package you have chosen and the customizability of it all will kick in and start claiming, if I can put it that way. So it's the planting period, I reckon, which is quite critical. And then the next period we can go to is the reproductive stage, where it starts blooming or flowering. Because and that was the main problem this year. During January, February, March, mainly our summer crops will start flowering, pit filling and all that. So if soil moisture is insufficient, then you're going to have problems on profitability or yield at the end of it all, and yield is profitability. So that's our main focus, or second main focus area then, is to make sure that periods from January till February, March, or the period the farmer selected according to planting date is correct, and that our risk mitigation is in line with what is expected from that crop, or from that profitable factor from that crop. So I don't know if that gives you a little better perspective of the product, but cost effectiveness, it's customizable from start to bottom. I mean, that's the main goal of the product, is to get it out into agricultural sector, and to be able to, from a commercial farmer even till the guy that's starting just now, to get that product out there and get it working, and to provide sustainability and to prevent these massive losses. So.
Absolutely, and I hope that did help you. Do you have another question?
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
So I also wanted to find out, because now, at least especially with our business, we have 3 major commodities.
Yes.
So because I would want to also insure the livestock, right? And I wanted just to get clarity. Do you just insure, for instance, I just recently got my bull, right? And I want to insure the bull itself, but also, do you also allow insurance to actually cover my the semen, the fertility of it? Because then I know that at least, if anything, God forbid, touch wood, and nothing happens to the bull, at least I have the semen there. Do you also cover that? And also, I know a lot of insurers don't cover stock theft. So is that something you also don't cover? And also, do you make it clear to the farmers that what you actually cover? Because I know some would say, for instance, with grains and crops, they would say they don't cover hail, but it's something that we go through, and frost. I mean, it's in Joburg, it's a lot. It's very bad. So is those things that you cover? And also with the animals, what do you cover? Is it only just natural causes? But we have things like, what if it had a disease or something? Like, are you making it clear to us farmers, or is it just an insurance being sold to us?
Yes, Ms. Hlobisile, valid question. So just to backtrack on Agnovate side, currently, as I've mentioned, we're data driven. So at this stage in time, we're mainly looking at soil moisture, which is mainly drought insurance, row cropping, dryland production, and that type of stuff. But I reckon these satellites are so clever. You never know what the future might hold. So so just to give a perspective, it's mainly row crops, soybeans, maize. As I've mentioned, that planting periods, that reproductive phase. We sow natural resources, rainfall, for instance, which is actually connected to soil moisture. Without rain and without moisture, our crops can't grow if we do dryland production. And because we have these vast hectares of dryland within South African, within the agricultural sector in South Africa, that's one of the main problems we have identified, and one of the factors actually we can incorporate, I would say, in the risk profile. So we started off with the soil moisture, and currently doing the whole drought aspect of it all, making sure that the sustainability limited. I think limited.
Okay.
Sorry. So that's what happened if you have a plaasjaapie on. Try giving him, some English words, but the limited factor at the end of it all is the natural resource, and that's something our farmers can't control. If it's not raining, it's not raining. Then our crops are standing still and then actually deteriorating thereafter. So that was our main goal, our main focus to enter the market. But we're very excited on all the products we are actually going to launch within the future. As I've mentioned, these data sets are just mind-blowing. You can't believe what these satellites capture and the data that we can draw from it and that we can contribute to the farming industry. So something to look forward to, and
Lovely. It just shows that technology can actually help us, in better sustainability for everyone, even farming. And who would have thought that, So Janine, I just want to ask you, from Farmers Weekly, can you please highlight any article that you guys maybe have spoken about that can help young farmers deal with things like preparing for and recovering from climate-related issues?
So I can't point to a specific article, because we publish on a weekly basis, and also we publish about climate change and climate change mitigation almost on a weekly basis as well. But we have done articles in the past, for example, that will speak to farmers about how they can prepare their animals based during drought, or how they can prepare, not prepare, but how they can, let's say, store water in case of something like drought. This past week, we've done a focus on irrigation, and I think irrigation is really important as well, just because it talks about how certain types of irrigation, like let's say micro irrigation, can save water, and that sort of thing. So yeah, I can't really point to a specific article, but there are many that we publish that actually deals with this specific problem.
That is amazing. So young farmers can obviously just join into Farmers Weekly, read up articles, and then, prepare for climate related issues that causes a big factor, And another thing that young farmers look for, I think every farmer in the farming industry, is sustainable growth. I think that is one of the biggest things. So Janine, with Farmers Weekly, what are some of the advices that you guys do have with scaling operations for young farmers where they do or can reach sustainable growth in the industry?
Really the same way that we do everything else, is through education. So obviously we've got the magazine, but we also have social media platforms. And we've got our website, so we try and put as much information out there, either in print or online, to reach as many people as possible. And I think, I've always been a diehard of the importance of education, even basic education like primary school education. I think that's one of the things that has failed South Africans the most, is sort of the lack of just good basic education. So I think at Farmers Weekly, we really try and punt education. We really try and get people to understand the importance of educating themselves. And so we provide the information. We just need people to actually read it and engage with it. Yeah, sort of the way that we try to reach them.
Beautiful. And I know that it does offer some sort of help, because I can see education is the biggest thing, especially in the farming industry, for sustainable growth and for startups. So Hlobisile, you were featured in an article recently, if I'm not mistaken. So tell us about it. Did it actually help with sustainable growth? Do you have questions for Janine on that? And tell us about your whole experience with that.
So I am firstly grateful and privileged to have been featured there in a few articles. It has put a lot of exposure and grew the business. I think what I would wish it also did is maybe, some of the challenges that we mention in the Farmers Weekly articles, we could get, or you could partner with certain institutions or private companies or government officials who can at least help with these problems, because it's most of the problems that I may face, maybe another 100 farmers are facing. But if we can get a direction to be pointed or paired with, or these articles doesn't just come, with the exposure, but it comes also with the realistic help, it would go a long way. That if, let's say, for instance, because we all know that farming is a labor and a capital intensive field, maybe we could be put in touch with maybe funders or grant, if it's a grant or a loan, at least we are linked that way, and you're not just exposed, but as a farmer you're also empowered. Or if like it's a water problem, then you know that, okay, let's link them with borehole companies that meet them halfway, that okay, fine, you are linked with this company, they can help you, meet you, they can assist you with your water, maybe at a better price, or because it's negotiated by Farmers Weekly, because it holds a very heavy name, and it's a very reputable brand, it can actually help the farmers. So with that being said, it opened a lot of doors. And with the emails that I receive, because it's after the article you always get like an email, it's mostly people also wanting the assistance. So that's when I saw that actually, this can go a long way. And also if they see that Farmers Weekly is also paying it forward by helping the farmers, not just by featuring them, it could also like gain a lot of significance also and more respect for the magazine. So I am truly grateful to have been featured there and to be associated with the magazine. It's just that only wish that you would only hope that maybe in the near future they can at least look at it from that angle, that if this is a challenge that is mentioned, how can we help the farmer a bit?
Absolutely. And that actually goes into the next question that I do have for you, Armand. Do you guys have specific insurance plans or additional resources that you guys offer young farmers so that they can actually expand and grow their businesses individually?
Yeah, I think, Tashlin, if I listen to Ms. Hlobi, the main thing is, I think it all starts with agricultural finance at the end of it all. And we just had the discussion, if you're investing in a farming in industry or a farming unit, I think there's a lot of risk involved. I mean, you don't want to invest your money in something that you could possibly lose. And that's what we try to establish with our insurance at the end of it all as well, is to generate finance via the protection we can provide with these type of products. So we're already working with financiers currently, which is working quite well. We do the cover or the insurance for them on the behalf of their farmers, or on the behalf of the financier for the farmers. And the working of it all is quite effective, because the financier can with ease put his money into these projects and expand these projects without the massive risk that's weighing on his shoulders. So I think that's the main goal, is to generate these financial powers to get behind our farmers and start utilizing the resources and start expanding. And I think insurance plays a massive role in that process then as well. So hopefully in the future we can make it bigger and get some more money into the sector. Absolutely.
And
Yes.
then that is brilliant. Thank you so much, Armand. And then to you, Janine, with Farmers Weekly, are there any initiatives or partnerships that the magazine is involved with that empower and support young emerging farmers?
So I just want to speak about a point that was raised earlier, about Chloe's point that was raised earlier. The best that we can do at this point is put farmers in touch with various role players. We unfortunately can't actually negotiate on their behalf because we don't have any insurance companies or any other kind of finance companies or anything that we operate under. So we're completely separate entities. I'd love to be able to negotiate on behalf of new farmers and try and help them make various deals and whatever, but unfortunately I don't have that influence. But yeah, it would be great if other companies could play ball in that sense, but I don't know if they will. It's just one of the realities that we have to face. But getting back to your question, so I mentioned earlier the Agri5 Expo, which I think is 2 expos, if I remember now correctly, that takes place. There's one in August and one in October, I think, which is aimed specifically at educating new farmers or young farmers. Then we've also partnered with various events where we give out basically free magazines, as many as we possibly can, to try and get that information out there. We've also, so this is not a partnership so much, but we're also busy developing a how-to guide for poultry production. So it's really the basics of poultry production, like what is poultry production, sort of broiler versus layer production, which is more expensive. We talk about insurance of poultry and how, whether it's affordable and how those premiums are devised, basically. So that's something that we're looking forward to. I can't give you an exact publication date, but it will be hopefully within the next month or so. That's basically what we're doing.
Okay. So, Janine, you did mention something about an expo that happens in August and October. So please do give us more information on that in case there's some young farmers who would love to join.
Okay, so the one at the end of August, I think it's the 29th and 30th of August, is in the Eastern Cape in East London. And then the one in October, which I cannot give you the dates for because I'm not sure what they are. But that's in KwaZulu-Natal in Pietermaritzburg. If anyone wants more information, though, they can go to our website, which is farmersweekly.co.za, or the Agri5 Expo website, which I think is just agri5expo.co.za.
Lovely, lovely. And I love things like that because young farmers that are watching will then be able to be exposed to even more things, and get to learn more things, and the things that the magazine also cover, just to give them more education and insight, because it's desperately needed. So we are reaching our end. It was so lovely having this conversation, sitting with an actual young farmer, and then sitting with Armand and Janine, giving core advice that young farmers desperately need, so I just want to say thank you for that. But in closing, we love ending the show by giving advice to young farmers out there, because they are starting up, and young farmers are the next generation of where our good sustainable food and crops come from. So we'll start off by Hlobisile. Any advice to a young farmer that is starting up? You've been there, you are doing this thing. Go ahead and give them advice, please.
My advice is basically to start with what you have and invest in mentorship and the research. You will avoid making especially expensive mistakes. Mistakes will always be there. It's part of learning, but at least that will be lessened if you invest in quality mentorship and Absolutely. You do the research, and don't wait for funding in all these institutions to assist you. Start with what you have, and they will find you on the way.
Beautiful. Janine, any advice from you?
I would say that you need to do your research, as we've been speaking about throughout the discussion today. I think also important, though, is to not doubt yourself. You should really have a belief in yourself, and never give up, really. If it's really something that you are passionate about and it's something that you're aspiring to, then you should go for it. Just Absolutely. Make sure that you cover your bases before jumping in.
Absolutely. That is very good sound advice. Cover bases before jumping in, because we need that, definitely. And then you, Armand, any advice based on insurance or just in general?
In general, I think if you're passionate about it, never lose sight of your goals and always keep charging at them. And I've always said it's not a right to farm, it's a privilege. So as long as we keep that in mind and we keep on charging and the passion never fades, you'll definitely be successful. Never give up. And as Janine said, it's a challenging industry. It's not easy, but otherwise, if it was easy, everybody would have done
Absolutely.
it. And congrats to Ms. Hlobi doing what she's doing. I think it takes guts, and to all the guys out there, never stop and just keep going on. You're doing a good job.
Thank you so much, guys. It was so amazing speaking to each and every one of you and giving advice to young farmers who are in this industry. I know that they do appreciate this insight and this advice, because there isn't a lot out there for our young farmers who are starting up in this. So for Agrovite and for Farmers Weekly, we would love to stay connected and hopefully in future build up partnerships with young farmer, because it's so beautiful to sit down and support and empower our emerging young farmers. So we do hope to keep that connection for future. And from us young farmers, it was such a privilege talking to you guys, and to Hlobisile, keep doing the amazing work you are doing. Reach out and get the support that you need. And also, please do share your socials, each and every one of you. If there's any questions young farmers do have, or anything that you in specifically need from any other company, yes, anything, go for it.
So we on Instagram. You can just search by Hlobisile Yende. It's Diary of a Farmer's Daughter. And we're also on LinkedIn. And we also have a website, which is, you just type the Yende and Partners and you will find it. We also, basically, and our email address is yendeandpartners@gmail.com, so they can send all of their queries there if there's any questions that they have, and that is where all the applications for the students who want to be part of our student program can go to. And with relation to the companies or anyone who would like to assist us, I mean, we always say anything will go a long way, and specifically we are really grateful for those who have assisted us, because there are like industry players that have helped our business to grow. I mean, also Farmers Weekly with that exposure, we don't take that for granted. And some other companies, if I'm allowed to mention, they also have assisted us. Like, I have a lot of respect for Jacaranda FM as well as Access Bank, because our business came out third in South Africa out of 539 businesses, and they have assisted us with financial assistance as well as paying for our education of the business, that now we are able to have a communications company that helps the business with the value proposition and branding and social media management and marketing. And a lot of companies can't afford that, or is not a priority. They have paid for my master's fees. They've also paid for the accreditation of the student program. We're officially accredited. And they've also gifted us with radio airtime on Jacaranda FM. You know that how expensive it is just to even get 5 minutes on it. So that'll go a long way. So they've invested in the growth of the business, and such prizes and initiatives and incentives go a long way, because I don't think I would have been able to purchase a bull anytime soon. It was a dream, a long-term dream, but it happened quicker than I ever expected.
Wow.
So it's those institutions and companies that you're grateful for, that it's personal and business growth. Mm-hmm. So, and you can thank them by actually doing, so that if they come back and after a year, you have a testimony, and it's a good investment to them. So really, anyone who's watching or anyone who has the power, anything is really appreciated. And it's a thing that won't go to waste.
Absolutely.
It's a skills transfer that whatever I benefit, the students benefit, and we are breeding the next generation of female commercial farmers.
That is absolutely beautiful and inspiring, and it just shows why we do these type of things, because support goes a long way for our upcoming emerging farmers. And then Janine, with Farmers Weekly, my apologies, where can we get a hold of you guys? How do we get a hold of the magazine, website, social media? Please tell us.
So the magazine is available in at most retail stores, and I think also at some garage stores. So not all of them, but definitely some of them. If you're in a particular area and you're struggling to get hold of the magazine, you can always just give us a call, and we'll find out where your nearest delivery is. Or you can also subscribe for a digital copy. Otherwise, you can go to our website, farmersweekly.co.za. We're on TikTok, X, Facebook, LinkedIn, I think most all of them, Instagram. And for most of them, I think the handle is at Farmers Weekly SA. So people can find us there. But again, if anyone ever needs any specific information, they're welcome to email us. It's just farmersweekly@caxton.co.za.
Okay,
and
perfect.
Someone will get back to you.
Thank you so much, Janine. And then Armand, in terms of Agrovite and the insurance side, how do we reach out to you? Social media, calling numbers? Yeah, let us know.
Yeah, they can go and visit us on www.agnovate.co.za. We got an online calculator there as well, which I would like if Mr. and Mrs. Tomby go and check it out a bit for us as well. So you can go and play there and simulate the claim and simulate the insurance policy, which I think is quite it's an indicative tool, but they can go and have a look at it. And then we're also on Facebook and LinkedIn. They can just go and Google or just go and look for Agnovate Insurance, and they'll find us there with all the contact details, and with any inquiries they can get hold of us with our emails and cell phones that would be on the website. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Janine, Armand, and Hlobisile, for this beautiful panel discussion. And I know that for the young farmers that are watching, it helps them a great deal. So we are done, and we have reached the end. And to all young farmers and guests watching, thank you so much for tuning in. Please stay tuned for the next episode. Like, share, comment, and share with your friends, because we know that there is a young emerging farmer out there somewhere. Until we meet again, I am Tashlin. Bye-bye.